Before type 2 diabetes develops, the body doesn't suddenly malfunction overnight. It goes through a long, gradual process of internal changes that usually begin years before a diagnosis is made. The first and most critical change that almost always happens is insulin resistance. Insulin is the hormone that helps your body move glucose, or sugar, from your bloodstream into your cells so that it can be used for energy. Before we continue, I'd like to tell you about Insulin, a powerful blend of 13 natural ingredients, each carefully selected for their proven ability to support healthy blood sugar levels, enhance insulin sensitivity, and promote overall wellness. You can read more on diacellon.com. When you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises and your pancreas releases insulin to help keep it balanced. Over time, if your body is frequently exposed to high levels of sugar and insulin, usually from eating processed foods, refined carbs, and sugary drinks, your cells start to ignore the signal of insulin. They become resistant, meaning that insulin is no longer as effective at pushing glucose into your cells. To compensate, your pancreas has to work overtime, producing more and more insulin to try to keep blood sugar levels normal. For a while, this extra insulin can keep blood sugar under control, which is why people can have insulin resistance for years without realizing it. But eventually, the pancreas starts to struggle and blood sugar begins to rise. This stage is known as prediabetes, and it's the body's warning sign that it's under metabolic stress. Prediabetes is the quiet storm that brews before type 2 diabetes. It often goes completely unnoticed because there are few, if any, obvious symptoms, yet serious internal changes are already happening. People in this stage often start to experience subtle hints that something isn't right. Fatigue that lingers throughout the day, hunger that returns quickly after eating, especially after carbohydrate-heavy meals, or mild brain fog that makes it harder to focus. Some people notice they are thirstier than usual or need to urinate more frequently, both signs that their blood sugar might be higher than normal. Another visible indicator can be acanthosis nigricans, which appears as dark, velvety patches on areas like the neck, armpits, or groin. This is the skin's way of signaling that insulin levels are chronically elevated. Weight gain, especially around the belly, is another strong clue that insulin resistance is present. The more abdominal fat a person carries, the more inflammatory chemicals are released, and those chemicals further worsen insulin sensitivity. It becomes a vicious cycle where the body stores more fat, becomes more resistant to insulin, and then stores even more fat left unchecked. This process gradually pushes blood sugar higher until the pancreas can no longer keep up, setting the stage for diabetes. The most fascinating and concerning part of this process is that insulin resistance and high insulin levels can exist for a decade or more before diabetes is diagnosed. Many people who get a type 2 diabetes diagnosis later in life have actually been on this path since their 30s or 40s. During this early phase, blood sugar levels can appear normal in lab tests, so doctors might not notice anything wrong. However, behind the scenes, fasting insulin levels are often much higher than they should be. High insulin is one of the very first markers that something is off metabolically. People may notice that they get tired after eating carb-heavy meals, or that they crave sweets more often. Others might struggle to lose weight no matter what they try, even if they're eating less. These signs indicate that the body's becoming less efficient at using energy, and insulin is struggling to do its job. In this hidden stage, the pancreas is in overdrive, producing insulin around the clock to keep blood sugar levels stable. Eventually, the beta cells in the pancreas become overworked and start to lose their ability to produce enough insulin. And that's when blood sugar starts to rise and prediabetes becomes diabetes. Another factor that nearly always comes before diabetes is chronic inflammation. This type of inflammation is different from what happens when you have an injury or infection. It's low-grade, persistent, and caused by poor lifestyle habits over time. Eating too much processed food, not getting enough sleep, being chronically stressed, and leading a sedentary lifestyle all contribute to inflammation. This state of inflammation interferes with how cells respond to insulin, making them more resistant. It also causes oxidative stress, which damages cells and tissues throughout the body, including the pancreas itself. When inflammation is ongoing, the beta cells in the pancreas become less efficient and eventually start to die off. At the same time, Inflammation disrupts the hormones that control appetite and fat storage, which means the body starts storing more fat, especially around the organs. This visceral fat isn't just stored energy, it's metabolically active and releases inflammatory molecules that make insulin resistance even worse. It becomes a destructive cycle of inflammation, insulin resistance, and fat storage that, if not interrupted, inevitably leads to type 2 diabetes. Lifestyle choices play a massive role in how this process unfolds. A diet high in refined carbs, sugary snacks, and processed foods can cause repeated spikes in blood sugar and insulin throughout the day. Each spike makes your cells a little more resistant to insulin, especially when combined with a lack of physical activity. When you're not moving regularly, your muscles don't use up much glucose, which means your blood sugar and insulin levels stay high. Stress also contributes by raising cortisol, a hormone that signals the body to release more glucose into the bloodstream. Over time, high cortisol levels can make insulin resistance worse. Lack of sleep amplifies the problem. Just one night of poor sleep can make the body temporarily insulin resistant the next day. Combine all of these factors, poor diet, stress, inactivity, and sleep deprivation, and the result is a perfect storm for insulin resistance and eventually diabetes. This explains why modern lifestyles have led to a global explosion in type 2 diabetes over the past few decades. Genetics can influence how quickly or easily someone develops insulin resistance, but genes alone don't determine your fate. In fact, genetics account for only a small portion of diabetes risk compared to lifestyle factors. People who have a family history of diabetes may have a lower threshold for developing insulin resistance, meaning they might need to be more careful about their diet and lifestyle. But having diabetic genes doesn't mean diabetes is inevitable. Many people with a strong genetic predisposition never develop the disease because they maintain healthy habits that protect their metabolism. Likewise, people without any family history can develop insulin resistance if they consistently eat poorly, don't exercise, or are under chronic stress. The good news is that lifestyle changes can override genetic tendencies. This means that the changes that happen before diabetes, like insulin resistance, inflammation, and weight gain, can all be prevented, slowed, or even reversed through daily choices. If you look closely at blood work, there are early red flags that appear long before diabetes shows up. One of the best early indicators is high fasting insulin or an elevated triglyceride to HDL ratio. Unfortunately, most routine checkups only measure fasting glucose, which can look normal for years even when insulin is high. By the time glucose levels rise into the prediabetic range, insulin resistance has already been in place for a long time. That's why paying attention to how your body feels is crucial. Constant tiredness after meals, strong cravings for sugary foods, midsection weight gain, and mood swings are often the body's way of signaling that insulin levels are out of balance. These are not random annoyances. They're your body's early alarm bells, warning you that something deeper is going on. If these signals are ignored, the condition quietly progresses until the body can no longer compensate, and blood sugar levels finally rise beyond control. The most powerful truth about this process is that it can be reversed, but only if it's caught early and addressed with consistency and awareness. Insulin resistance and prediabetes are not lifelong sentences. They are warning signs that the body's metabolism is under strain and needs attention. When caught in this stage, the body still has the remarkable ability to heal itself and restore proper metabolic function. The cells that have become resistant to insulin can gradually regain their sensitivity if they are given the right environment and enough time. This healing process doesn't require extreme diets or expensive treatments. It's primarily about returning to the fundamentals of healthy living and creating balance. The most effective interventions are surprisingly simple yet powerful. Focus on eating whole, unprocessed foods, cut out added sugars and refined carbohydrates, get regular physical activity, manage daily stress, and prioritize adequate sleep. Exercise, in particular, is one of the most transformative tools for reversing insulin resistance. When you move your body, especially through activities that use your large muscles, like walking, cycling, swimming, or weight training, those muscles start to absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream, even without insulin's help. This lowers blood sugar levels naturally and gives the pancreas a much-needed rest. Strength training builds more lean muscle, which increases the body's ability to store glucose efficiently, while regular aerobic exercise helps improve cardiovascular health and further enhances insulin sensitivity. Even small, consistent actions, such as taking a 10 to 15-minute walk after meals, can dramatically improve how your body manages blood sugar. Over time, these habits work together to lower insulin levels, decrease inflammation, support hormone balance, and repair the metabolic damage that led to prediabetes in the first place. It's important to understand that consistency is key. The body didn't develop insulin resistance overnight, and it won't reverse it overnight either. But with steady commitment, choosing water over soda, sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, cooking more meals at home, and finding ways to reduce stress through meditation, breathing exercises, or simply spending time outdoors, the results can be life-changing. People who adopt these habits often report having more energy, better focus, fewer cravings, and more stable moods within just a few weeks. Over several months, insulin levels can normalize, excess weight begins to drop, and blood sugar stabilizes. In many cases, lab results confirm what the body already feels. Prediabetes can be fully reversed, and type 2 diabetes can be prevented. This proves that the body isn't broken, it's simply been out of balance, and with the right care, it can return to health and thrive once again. In the end, what always happens before type 2? Diabetes is not just one sudden event, it's a long, gradual cascade of insulin resistance, inflammation, chronic stress, and lifestyle imbalances that quietly accumulate over years. This process unfolds so subtly that most people don't realize it's happening until the symptoms become too obvious to ignore. It's not that the body suddenly fails one day. Rather, it's been sending quiet signals of distress all along, asking for help and balance. These signs can appear in many forms: a slow but steady increase in belly fat, constant tiredness even after a full night's sleep, a growing dependence on caffeine or sugar for energy, or the frequent urge to snack even after meals. The rise in insulin levels, persistent sugar cravings, mental fog, and mood swings are all small clues that the body's internal systems are struggling to stay in equilibrium. Each one of these symptoms is a whisper from your metabolism, warning that your body is being overworked and that it's time to make a change before those whispers turn into a full-blown disease. Recognizing these early signs is a powerful opportunity, an invitation to step in and take control before things go too far. When people learn to listen to their bodies and take action at this stage, they can often stop the progression toward diabetes completely. Healing the metabolism doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness, patience, and consistency. The human body is incredibly resilient and always trying to heal itself. When we remove the constant burdens of poor diet, stress, and inactivity, and instead give the body nutrient-rich food, movement, rest, and emotional calm, it responds quickly and positively. Understanding this empowers people to take charge of their health long before a diagnosis appears on paper. It means that the future isn't fixed. You can rewrite it through your daily choices. The message is simple but profound. Diabetes doesn't have to be your destiny. With awareness, education, and consistent action, it's entirely possible to restore balance, protect your long-term health, and live with vitality for decades to come.